You have power of levitation.
High in the icy peaks of the Himalayas, ancient monks have been found alive, sitting in deep meditation. Frozen in time, they seem to defy death itself, leaving experts both amazed and shocked. What are they protecting? And why have they stayed hidden for so long? Rumors tell of dark rituals and powerful relics, suggesting these monks might hold secrets that could either save humanity or destroy it. So, what's really hiding behind their silence? The superhuman ancient monks in the Himalayas. Let's start with this monk, who showed off his supernatural power by lying on burning wood like it was nothing. So, who exactly are these rare monks? High in the remote, frozen stretches of the Himalayas, stories persist of mystics who defy the laws of nature. Monks said to levitate, melt snow with their body heat, and move objects with a single glance. For centuries, these Himalayan monks have been the subject of legends, walking between the worlds of the physical and the divine. At the heart of these tales lies a tradition known as the Ngakpa lineage, an ancient esoteric sect of Tibetan monk yogis, dedicated not to monasteries or temples, but to an unbroken inner path. Detached from society, these monks sought spiritual mastery through extreme isolation and intense meditative practice. In these teachings, enlightenment is defined by the dissolution of ego, the complete severance of one's identity from worldly attachments and personal pride. So, the desire to display one's powers, to provoke awe, or to seek validation is seen as a dangerous distraction, capable of halting spiritual progress. Ancient monks, it is said, avoid public attention. Their lives unfold in silent caves, hidden hermitages, or under assumed identities within ordinary communities.
I living in this cave, my life not for this normal, for this material things.
Only in the rarest of circumstances would such a monk reveal their abilities, not for spectacle, but as a spiritual intervention, a discreet catalyst meant to assist a person on their path. The majority of Himalayan monks, however, live humble, unassuming lives, often supported by locals and removed from public interest. Culturally, this secrecy has also been enforced by external forces. In modern times, restrictive laws from regional authorities, particularly under communist China, have placed tight controls on religious expression. The few remaining monks continue their practices in utmost secrecy, preserving ancient knowledge from both political suppression and public corruption. In other words, the mountains keep their secrets. These ancient monks and their reported supernatural abilities continue to baffle experts. One reason is this remarkable footage. It shows a Tapasya monk meditating in the Himalayan mountains, enduring temperatures as low as -75 degrees Celsius. That's impossible. Or this Tapasya monk, who has kept his arm raised for 12 years. When the term Tapasya monks is mentioned, many imagine severe acts of self-mortification, fasting for months, meditating while balancing on one leg, or praying while immersed in freezing water. These footages paint a vivid picture of suffering as a path to enlightenment. However, as Swami Brahmananda, a revered sage and direct disciple of the great Sri Ramakrishna, once explained, true tapasya is not about torturing the body. Instead, it is about transforming one's inner nature through the mastery of the mind and the elimination of negative tendencies such as lust, greed, and anger. Swami Brahmananda, who spent the final years of his life at the head monastery of the Ramakrishna mission near the Ganges River, is one of the central figures who helped clarify the true meaning of tapasya. He taught that the key to spiritual progress is a healthy body. The physical strength of a tapasya monk supports the willpower necessary to conquer the mind. Without a strong body, the battle against bad habits becomes a near impossible task, and even the deepest meditation can be hindered. In his teachings, Swami Brahmananda encouraged spiritual aspirants, especially those who had worldly responsibilities like family care, to maintain a balanced, nutritious diet. The idea was not to indulge the senses, but to nourish the body in such a way that it strengthens the will and provides a solid foundation for spiritual practice. Extreme fasting, which weakens the body, was firmly discouraged. But what is tapasya? To understand its true essence, we turn to an evening in 1922 when a monk asked Swami Brahmananda about the practice of austerity. As the monks of the Ramakrishna order meditated by the Ganges River, the question arose, what is the meaning of tapasya? In response, Swami Brahmananda described the various kinds of austerities that tapasya monks undertake. Some ascetics take vows to remain standing for years, and one such monk had almost completed 12 years of standing. His legs, swollen from the strain, resembled the limbs of someone suffering from elephantiasis. Other tapasya monks endure the bitter cold of winter, standing in freezing waters for hours, or sit amidst 5 blazing fires under the scorching summer sun. Some even meditate while seated on nails. These visible feats, however, are not the heart of tapasya. Anyone can conquer the body, Swami Brahmananda remarked, but conquering the mind is the greatest challenge. True tapasya, he explained, lies in 3 essential principles: truthfulness. Every action, word, and thought of a tapasya monk must be rooted in truth. Brahmacharya, the practice of celibacy, not just in physical actions but in thought and speech as well, is essential for the tapasya monk. And control over desires. A tapasya monk must master his or her desires, letting go of attachment to material things, fame, and fleeting pleasures. Of these principles, brahmacharya is the most vital. Swami Brahmananda shared from his own experience that 12 years of strict brahmacharya were often necessary for true spiritual realization. Without the control of these desires, meditation becomes impossible. The mind remains consumed with distractions and cannot focus on the divine. For Swami Brahmananda, the path of tapasya was not about public displays or extraordinary feats. Instead, it was a quiet, private practice of profound self-discipline and spiritual purity. True tapasya monks do not seek recognition. Their austerities are a means of purifying themselves and reaching a higher spiritual truth. Today, in the remote regions of the Himalayas, tapasya monks continue to live in solitude, practicing the austerities passed down through generations. They endure silence, extreme weather, and harsh conditions to cultivate the deepest states of mind. In this rigorous discipline, they seek not to prove themselves to the world, but to awaken a higher truth within. On the other hand, the experts were left stunned by the monks' seemingly superhuman abilities. What truly baffled them was witnessing how these monks had a tradition of mummifying themselves, and even after death, their bodies refused to decompose, leaving scientists with more questions than answers. Experts shocked by the self-mummified monk tradition.
Followers of Buddhism have built statues honoring the Buddha for thousands of years, but one statue from China is attracting special attention.
In 2014, a Dutch hospital received what would become its oldest and most bizarre patient, a 1,000-year-old Buddha statue. But this wasn't just a religious artifact. Inside it was a mummified monk, seated in the lotus position, perfectly preserved for centuries.
Keeping secrets can be a difficult thing to do, but this golden statue of the Buddha has been hiding something.
The statue, on loan to the Drents Museum in the Netherlands, was sent to Meander Medical Center in Amersfoort for high-tech medical scans. Radiologists and researchers hoped to uncover the secrets hidden within. Under the supervision of Buddhist art expert Erik Bruyn, doctors performed a CT scan and sampled bone material for DNA tests. What they found left experts stunned. The monk's organs had been removed and replaced with scraps of paper covered in ancient Chinese characters and decayed, unidentified substances. How these organs were removed and replaced without damaging the body remains an unanswered mystery. The body inside was believed to be that of Master Liu Quan, a Buddhist monk from the Chinese meditation school who died around the year 1100. This shocking discovery led experts to investigate an ancient, nearly forgotten ritual.
A scan of a 1,000-year-old Buddhist statue reveals a surprise inside.
Self-mummification, a brutal practice once undertaken by the tapasya monks. These monks weren't waiting to be buried after death. They chose to mummify themselves while still alive. attempting to reach a state of eternal meditation and become a revered, living Buddha. The process was as cruel as it was precise. For years, a monk would follow a strict, unforgiving diet, avoiding rice, wheat, and soybeans. Instead, they survived on nuts, berries, tree bark, and pine needles, gradually starving themselves to strip away fat and moisture, which would otherwise cause the body to rot. To stop bacterial growth, they consumed herbs, sesame seeds, and cycad nuts. The final phase involved drinking poisonous tree sap used for lacquer production, a toxic substance meant to repel insects and act as an embalming fluid from within. Once the monk's body was sufficiently prepared, they were buried alive in a small stone tomb. A bamboo breathing tube was left above ground, and each day, the monk would ring a bell to signal they were still alive. As long as the bell sounded, the other monks knew the monk was meditating. When the bell fell silent, the air tube was removed and the tomb sealed. After 3 years, the tomb was opened. If the body had successfully mummified, it was displayed and honored.
Inside the statue, they found the mummified remains of a monk.
If not, an exorcism was performed and the remains were buried. Few monks ever succeeded in this horrifying quest for immortality, but those who did, like Luquan, became legends. Some Buddhists today still believe these mummified monks aren't dead, but in a deep meditative trance called tukdam, existing between life and death. Luquan's body remains one of the most famous examples, touring museums worldwide, a chilling testament to a tradition modern science still can't fully explain. Additionally, Mongolia rarely makes international headlines. Despite its vast landscape, the country's population has dwindled to under 3 million, but every so often, something extraordinary from its ancient past resurfaces, and today is one of those days. Mongolian scientists are investigating the preserved remains of a monk, reportedly 200 years old, discovered frozen in the lotus position. According to local reports and the Siberian Times, the monk was found on January 27th in Mongolia's Songgino-Kherson province, seated in full meditation posture, wrapped in cattle skin.
This discovery is the only one of its kind in the world.
Ganhugin Purevbata, a professor at Ulaanbaatar Buddhist University, confirmed the monk's left hand was open, while the right formed a sutra preaching gesture. Though no peer-reviewed study has verified these claims, the discovery has sparked global curiosity. Mongolia and nearby Siberia have a history of producing so-called accidental mummies, thanks to their extreme, preservation-friendly climates. In recent years, a 9,000-year-old mummified bison was recovered in Siberia.
Before that, only bones of the postcranial skeleton or skull had been found.
Russian archaeologists have also unearthed centuries-old bodies preserved under copper plates. But this monk's story takes a strange turn. Authorities quickly learned the body hadn't been resting peacefully in some remote mountain shrine. According to local police, it was stolen from another part of the country and was about to be smuggled out and sold on the black market. A 45-year-old suspect named Entor was arrested before the sale could go through. The discovery immediately stirred comparisons to one of Mongolia's most legendary figures, Dashi Dorjo Itigilov. Born in 1852, Itigilov was a highly respected Buddhist monk who, at age 75, reportedly predicted the timing of his death. Surrounded by disciples, he crossed his legs in the lotus position, began meditating, and died while chanting a prayer for the dead. Before his passing, Itigilov famously instructed followers to revisit his body in 30 years. When they did, in 1955, during a brutal period of Stalinist persecution, they reportedly found him perfectly preserved, still in lotus position. In 2002, Itigilov's body was exhumed again before a small audience. Astonishingly, it showed minimal signs of decay after 75 years.
Researchers used an endoscope to examine the mummy's thoracic and abdominal cavities.
No embalming fluid, no mummification process was ever confirmed. Theories ranged from natural preservation to some unknown burial method, but no definitive explanation surfaced. Now, with the emergence of this new mummified monk, speculation is rampant. Could it be Itigilov himself? How did the body vanish? Who else is involved? And yes, there's apparently a black market for ancient frozen monks. The body is now secured at Mongolia's National Center of Forensic Expertise, Whether it proves to be Itigilov or another monk lost to history, one thing's certain: this mystery is far from over. But that's not all. Step into the temple of Wat Kunaram in Thailand, and the first thing you'll see is a face smiling back at you from behind a pair of sunglasses. But it's not a tour guide. It's the preserved body of Luang Po Dang, a monk who's been sitting there, frozen in time, for over 40 years. Born in the early 1900s in Thailand, he once considered becoming a monk in his 20s. But then, he met a beautiful young woman, fell in love, and chose a different path. He married, raised 6 children, and lived a full family life. But at the age of 50, with his kids grown and his responsibilities behind him, Dang returned to the dream he'd left behind. He entered monkhood, and he didn't just dabble in it, he dove deep.
Of Luang Pho Dang, the mummified monk of Wat Kunaram.
Dang threw himself into Buddhist teachings and meditation, quickly earning a reputation as a respected scholar and teacher. He even served briefly as an abbot before returning to a small temple near his childhood home, Wat Kunaram. That's where he would spend the rest of his days. When Dang was 79, he gathered his students and made a scary prediction. He told them his death was near, and if his body didn't decompose, he wanted it preserved and displayed in the temple as a reminder of the Buddhist path and the escape from suffering. 2 months later, his prophecy came true. In his final days, Dang followed the ancient, grueling tradition of self-mummification, a practice believed to have originated in northern Japan. Monks would gradually starve and dehydrate themselves while meditating, rejecting all earthly desires in the pursuit of enlightenment. The process naturally dried out the body, preserving it long after death. For 7 days, Dang stopped eating and drinking entirely, meditating until the very end. He passed away seated in the lotus position. True to his wishes, his monks placed his mummified body in a glass case inside the temple. Time and dehydration preserved his skin and many of his organs, but not his eyes. Over the years, they collapsed inward, leaving empty sockets behind. So, in a uniquely human gesture, the monks placed sunglasses on his face to spare visitors the unsettling sight. Today, Luang Pho Dang still sits there, his body a quiet symbol of devotion.
Interestingly, those radiographs also show that Luang Pho Dang's body has become a hatchery for geckos native.
Buddhists and tourists alike travel to Wat Kunaram to see him, drawn by a strange mix of reverence and curiosity. Recent scans even revealed that his dentures remain intact and that a native gecko species occasionally lays eggs beneath his preserved skin. Also, these mummifications were only possible because of the incredible skills these ancient monks mastered. And here's how they did it. The ancient monk skills hidden deep in the Himalayas, deep within the towering ranges of the Himalayas. For centuries, ancient monks dedicated their lives to mastering abilities that defied human limits. These weren't ordinary skills, but secret techniques passed down through generations, preserved in silence within hidden temples and remote monasteries. Today, many of these ancient practices live on in the hands of modern Shaolin monks, guardians of a tradition stretching back over 1,000 years. Among the most remarkable of these skills is the one-finger inverse handstand. This technique, first recorded in ancient texts, was once practiced by reclusive monks as a form of spiritual and physical discipline. By strengthening the fingers through years of relentless training, often by striking solid trees, the monks conditioned their bodies to perform seemingly impossible feats. Even now, around the old Shaolin temples, trees stand marked by deep indents, a silent testament to centuries of discipline. To perform this skill, the monk first balances on one hand with fingers outstretched. Then, with careful control, he lifts his entire body into an inverted position, supported by a single outstretched index finger on the opposite hand. It's a demonstration not just of strength, but of balance, concentration, and mental focus. Another ancient technique still practiced today is the art of shattering glass with a needle. To most, breaking glass requires a tool or sheer force. But the ancient monks discovered that by understanding the structure of glass, its brittle nature and hidden weaknesses, they could shatter it using nothing more than a sewing needle. The technique involves throwing the needle with precise force and a perfectly straight trajectory.
About the Shaolin monk skill, of throwing a needle through a pane of glass.
so that it strikes the glass without bending. The impact causes a tiny crack, rapidly spreading and causing the entire sheet to break apart. This skill, once a closely guarded demonstration of precision and internal power, has survived the centuries. Modern Shaolin monks continue to practice and perform it. The third ancient technique is one of the most unusual, called iron crotch. In the ancient monasteries of the Himalayas, monks believed that no part of the body should remain weak or vulnerable. As part of their iron body training, they developed techniques to strengthen even the most delicate areas of the male anatomy. This practice involves stimulating blood flow and gradually conditioning tissue resilience through controlled impact and resistance exercises. One of the most intense forms of this training includes attaching iron weights or stone rollers to the body and dragging them over distances. Over time, this ancient method was believed to increase flexibility, circulation, and durability, transforming the body's most sensitive areas into ones capable of withstanding considerable force. Today, Shaolin monks continue this rare training, preserving a discipline that speaks to the limits of human endurance. The fourth ancient skill is known as the monk pillar stance. This practice, rooted in ancient Himalayan monasteries, was designed to test a monk's balance, strength, focus, and discipline over prolonged periods. In this technique, the monk stands with one foot on each of two narrow stone pillars. From this position, they slowly lower themselves into a deep squat, keeping their back straight and hands pressed together in a meditative pose. To intensify the challenge, a sharp bamboo spear is often placed below them, demanding perfect control, as a single mistake could result in injury. In some variations, monks hold bowls of water in each hand and balance another atop their head. In others, oil lamps are used, with the flame flickering as a measure of stillness. The goal is to maintain this exact posture without movement for up to 2 hours. The fifth ancient skill is known as the iron shirt, a technique where a single monk can endure the piercing force of multiple spears pressed against his body without a scratch. For centuries, tales from Himalayan monasteries spoke of warrior monks capable of making their bodies impervious to blades, strikes, and even the sharp points of spears. Today, Shaolin monks still carry this tradition forward. Modern audiences have seen footage of monks balancing atop spear tips or bending them with the strength of their necks. Skeptics have long debated whether these were illusions, props, or stage acts crafted for performance. Some claimed the spears were weakened or specially made for demonstration. But those who've trained within the temple walls know the truth lies in years of conditioning, a relentless discipline known as iron shirt qigong. This ancient art involves deep breathing techniques, meditative focus, and controlled impact training designed to harden muscle, bone, and tissue to withstand extraordinary force. The sixth ancient technique is the art of breaking multiple stone boulders with a single palm strike. Passed down through generations of Himalayan warrior monks, this discipline belongs to the legendary iron body training, a system designed to transform fragile human limbs into unyielding weapons. At first glance, it seems impossible. A monk raises his palm, strikes the top of a towering stack of stone slabs, and, with one precise blow, shatters them all, one by one. To the untrained eye, it may appear like trickery, perhaps weakened stones, or some illusion for dramatic effect. But science offers a different explanation. Physicist Michael Feld of MIT once analyzed this phenomenon, concluding that it's not magic nor deception, but a perfect combination of force, speed, and pinpoint technique. Feld called it one of the most efficient human movements ever conceived. In ancient times, monks would spend decades perfecting their strikes on stone and wood, gradually developing the focus, alignment, and explosive power necessary to break solid rock. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.